To Whom the Wild Belongs by RenoHunt, Chapter 1. Alan Moore stared out of the window of the Hawk Air twin-engine airplane onto the blinding whiteness of the snow-covered mountains below. The peaks and valleys were jagged with sharp edges at a distance like a field of broken glass, yet so supple and smooth near the aircraft that it looked as if God had taken his trowel and painstakingly smoothed the pyramidal flats with a fine topping coat of white gypsum. His last flight up here, many seasons ago, was in late summer when the mountain peaks were gray stone, piercing the avocado carpet of conifer forest. The day was pristinely clear, and the brilliant sunlight was gleaming up from sparkling white peaks. The expanse of the mountains stretched out to infinity in the distance. He had contemplated the 18-hour drive from Vancouver to Terrace with his mind racing at the thought of the magnificent views he would absorb. But none could have compared to this. Besides, his daughter Jenna's tuition for the summer semester at Princeton was due in just 4 weeks. Time was of the essence. Upon arrival in Terrace, a cloud of white mist kicked up behind the puddle jumper airplane as its tires made contact with the shiny black surface of the wet runway. The passengers stepped one by one down the door stairs into the midday drizzle that so often settled in over this land. A Seattle-type soaking mist fell on this area most days from the moist ocean air being pushed skyward by the Canadian Rockies, cooling it below the dew point. In fact, so much moisture fell that the region was classified as a temperate rainforest. When Old Man Winter came calling, the rain changed to snow, often dropping over 50 feet of powder on the majestic slopes. Alan looked up at the snow-capped mountains surrounding Terrace, happy that winter had nearly completed its steady retreat. He could not make this journey in midwinter, as temperatures in these mountains can dip to -50, and a heavy dump of snow would stop you in your tracks. They say that in the dead of winter, Celsius and Fahrenheit meet at -40, but he had no intention of standing at that intersection. The big dangers this time of year were gushing streams from the spring snowmelt and grumpy bears emerging from a long winter's nap. He was hoping to use the snow at high altitude to track the big bear. It would likely be sleepy-headed and slow-moving right now, but starving for something to eat. If it were a grizzly, one would not want to be a tasty treat traipsing around the woods this time of year. There was no lack of grizzlies living in this region, but they typically stayed by streams and away from people. The odds were low that one would be sharing a mountaintop territory with a black bear, especially next to a tourist attraction like Lava Bed Park. Alan walked into the dry relief of the small terminal to wait for his luggage. There was a glass case with a Kermode bear mounted inside that had been hit by a car many years before. The bear was a beautiful light blonde from a combination of thick layers of hair that were white at the tip and a dirty yellow near the root. Known locally as the spirit bear, it was genetically a black bear, despite its white color. This one looked to have been around 300 pounds. When living, it was much whiter than the one he was hunting, but the spirit bear of Lava Bed Park was nearly twice the size of this one. He was a monster, and his fur was a dirty blonde, much like the roots of the one mounted before him. Excitement welled in his throat as the luggage belt behind him shuddered into motion. The northern Canadian Rockies was a dangerous place, any time of year. It was just 50 miles from the Alaska border. Wolves, cougars, grizzlies, and just about everything that can kill you in North America roamed the mountains. He was comforted by the fact that this was the biggest, fattest black bear that he'd ever seen. It was likely that this beast's competitors had steered clear. Spirit bear. Are you familiar with it? A voice boomed from behind him. Alan spun to respond, finding a smiling man with silvering hair peeking from beneath his ball cap. Yes, that is why I am here. I am a wildlife filmmaker for National Geographic. The man's eyebrows shot up and he offered a hand. Well, that is exciting. It's an honor to meet you. I am Bill Brown, the owner of Barley's Tavern here in town, the best steak and microbrewed beer in BC. He shook the man's hand firmly. I am Alan Moore. Well, Mr. Moore, why don't you stop by my place once you get checked in? Thank you, but I'm going to hit a drive-through and lay down. I have a lot of hiking to do tomorrow and need to be fresh. Nonsense. We can't let an important man like you eat at a drive-through. I insist that you be my guest this evening. It's my civic duty as an ambassador for our little town. Besides, it's our custom. If you insist, who am I to break local custom? I am at the Best Western, and I'll drive over after I check in. No need. My place is a block away. Just ask the front desk, and they will direct you. That sounds great. Thanks. They shook again, and the stranger turned and walked out the sliding glass doors with nothing more than a computer bag. He must have taken a day trip to Vancouver. He saw the camera case round the corner of the luggage belt and breathed a sigh of relief. He couldn't do anything without that piece of equipment, and there would be no place up here to get a $20,000 camera. His suitcase rounded the same turn, and with a brief stop at the National Rent-A-Car counter, he was headed out the front door, looking for his 4-door rental truck. Alan had danced this dance before. He would ask, while making the reservation, if the truck would have off-road tires. They would say yes. He would ask if they were sure. They would say, of course. It's a 4-wheel drive truck after all, Mr. Moore. He would land, walk out to the lot, and return, saying that it had street tires on it. They would say that they are deeply sorry, but it should not be an issue since the rental agreement clearly states that the vehicle is not allowed to be taken off of paved roads. So, this time, he merely glanced down helplessly at the nearly bald street tires as he loaded his stuff in the back and headed for the hotel.